Hello and welcome. Today we'll be talking about the electronics kit that I made out of the Vanquest EDCM Husky 2.0 pouch. This is a smaller electronics bag based on my first version, and it's a little bit more smaller size, a little bit more portable, and it features almost the same exact things that you would find in the first kit, with a little bit exception of some things. And it is a nice kit to carry around with my smaller toolkit. They work in conjunction with each other, and they provide quite a lot of utility when put together, and even on its own. Here we can see the EDCM Husky 2.0, and we have the front here. I've got a little pouch on here from Vanquest. I got some writing utensils on either side. I got a little notebook for taking notes, and the slip pouch in the front here. And then we have the side spine here, and we do have YKK zippers and a S-binder with the locking pull tabs here. On the back I just have nothing. It's just a basic plain old Molly field. And then on this side we have the zipper, and then on the top we have the grab handle, and the bottom is pretty much the same. Let's open it up and take a look inside. So we have a couple arrangements of webbing in here. We have two deep pockets here on the side, and two rows of webbing right here with 210D high-vis ripstop nylon as the backing here, and you'll see more of that as we take the items out of the pack here. So we have this kit pretty well stuffed and packed. On this side we have two rows of webbing, like I said, one big row on the bottom and then smaller rows on the top, and they're also offset so you can fit more items onto each other. And then on this side we have basically a deep pocket. It goes the gamut of this whole side, and we have two rows of webbing again. Bigger webs on the bottom, small webs on the top, and when you can see there's two rows here and a bunch of items that are stuffed into it. So let's begin and talk about the kit here. On the left, we'll start with the outer stuff. I have some rubber bands or hair ties in a small plastic bag here, just for keeping things tied down. In here I have my alcohol spray, and I have some backup solder taped to the side of it, different types of diameter solder. So I have that in an old spray bottle here for alcohol. So we have those two items there. And then here I have a newly acquired device. This is the X-Cool soldering iron, and it's a battery powered one, and you can change the temperatures on here, which is quite nice. You hold this button down. We're not going to be soldering, but it has LED, has a temperature rating, and it turns off because it knows it doesn't have a tip in there. You unscrew this a little bit and you slide a tip in, and the tips I have are in the back here. We'll go over that in a moment, but basically this is a pretty quick heating soldering iron, and it works fairly well. I'll do a video separately on this later on, but that's what I have for the kit here, since we do some light duty soldering repairs with the kit as an electronics kit. Next up is this side pouch, which has, or this side area with the elastic, we have some pokers, non-conductive, and some zip ties. Moving along, on this side here we have tweezers, and we also have a brush to clean off stuff, and we do have a spudger for lifting up screens and whatnot for doing electronical work. Let's go to the bottom elastics. Here we have a bunch of connectors and an empty parts bag here. So I like to keep that down here accessible, because I do have a cable in here that takes these type of inputs and changes them around. So if we encounter any kind of different connector ports out in the wild, so to speak, we can change and adapt to them. And here I have a small hank of cordage, comes in handy. And then also here I have some safety pins here. And then in this slot we have the first multi-tool of the kit. This is the Swissbit from Victorinox. It has a red LED in it, and it has a pen on this scale here, and it has the traditional scissors, the smaller scissors, which you can get into places the bigger scissors can't, of the kit. And then we also have a Swissbit 120 megabyte USB stick. So this is for documents and stuff, so if I have to put some stuff on a USB stick, I can with this kit, and it works fairly well. And then we also have the main blade here too on the other side, and then we also have the slotted screwdriver combo file here. So a little bit archaic, but it still works in the kit. I have that in there just because it's a nice little fit with the small scissors. Next up is a pretty rare but fun multi-tool. This is the Leatherman E4, or ES4 rather, and this has a 420 HC stainless steel blade for good precision work. On this side we have a pair of spring-loaded scissors, much like the Victorinox, but the Victorinox is a little bit better than those scissors. Then on this side we have our slotted screwdriver, bottle cap lifter, and then we also have a 2D Phillips head screwdriver here on this side. And then going over to this side, we have a 3-sided file, which is nice. We have a cross single head section here, which is coarse, a tooth section on the bottom, and then a cross head section, which is actually the coarse part of the file compared to the other side. So this is cross-hatched here. So good idea to have this in the kit when you want to get into a spot and get some rust off of something. You can use the file on here to do that, or to clean off your solder tips a little bit if you have to. And that's the outside tool arrangement of the ES4. Now the main tool inside of here is what really matters, and this one's a little bit gummed up, or the closer doesn't work as well, so I have to kind of fix it a little bit. But nonetheless, we have a gripper point up here. We have a 20 gauge, 18 gauge, 16 gauge, 14 and 12 wire stripping function with this little ES4 here, which is quite nice. And we have a copper cutter down at the bottom here. So quite a useful tool, even in its current condition. Works fairly well. Very hard to find these, and I've had this for many years, and I've used it quite a lot in projects. It's a great small little wire stripper to have on you when you're doing small type projects. Let's go over to the left side here and talk about one of the main multi-tools. Now this is a precision type of multi-tool. This is called the Cybertool Lite, and this is the first generation. Now this is a standard Victorinox. It has the corkscrew here with the pull-out slotted screwdriver for your glasses or small screws if you want. It has the pin in the scale here. And then on the back we also have the hook. And we also have the awl here with the sewing outlet. Not much use in electronics, but if in case you have to sew something up or part of a thing that covers electronics, it could come in handy. Now in the scale tools, we have the tweezers here. On the other side, I have the toothpick in here and the ballpoint pressurized pen. That's our second pen in the kit, or third if you want to count the front one. So it's good to have redundancy. Sometimes you can use that as an extra extended poker if you need to, especially the toothpick with electronics. The toothpick is not too conductive, so you can do that. Then we have the lanyard here, a Victorinox one. And then let's get to the top tools. On the top, we have the slotted screwdriver, bottle cap lifter, and wire stripper, bender, and it goes inline in 90 degrees. Next to it on the other side, we have the can opener slotted screwdriver here, and I use this part for opening boxes because it's sharp enough and it's a good idea. On this side we have the magnifying glass, which comes in handy for seeing part numbers on electronics. So that's part of the reason why I like this model, the Cybertool Lite, as it does include the magnifying glass. And then we have the older first gen model of the Cybertool Lite's namesake, the Lite module. You can tell that by the hook in the back here, as the newer iterations remove that. And this LED light is not as bright as the newer ones. It's also the battery is running low on this one. And then we have the namesake of the Cybertool itself. We have this 4mm driver. It also accepts 5mm at the tip there. And we have a bunch of different bits here that are being held in, double-sided bits. So you have a variety of different types of options to use for precision driving with a thin driver like this to get into tight spots when working with electronics, which is quite nice. Now we do also have a precision bit driver, but it's a little bit thick. So this one kind of covers the gamut of being a thin, kind of thin shank here, if you can see, or a thin neck to get into places that are harder to reach for a thicker type of precision driving. And then we have the pliers here, which have needle nose tips here, a type of regular plier tip in the center. Then we have a very, very thin wire cutter, which works for only certain types of wires. Down here we have a wire crimper, and that is our plier section for the Cybertool. And next up we have the main blade. not much to say about this except it's very sharp. I tend to keep this one in good condition since I have a bunch of other blades to use, but if I need to use it, it's very, very sharp and specific. Speaking of very sharp and specific, we have an even sharper blade here. This is the secondary blade, smaller for smaller tasks, easy to get a handle on, and works fairly well. And that is the tool set of the Cybertool Lite, an excellent tool. Unfortunately, it's not made anymore, but I do carry one on my persons at work as my general EDC, since I work with electronics quite a lot. This is a great tool to have in a kit if you can find one. Underneath this slot, I do have some extra part bags. Again, I keep it in here because it's flat and doesn't take up too much room. And then here, like in my other kit, I keep a Brunite Noctowl HL16 headlamp. This is a 16340 light. Has its own proprietary charging system, or you can charge this in a lithium-ion battery charger, so you can pop the battery in there, screw it down tighter. It should come on. This one should be charged up. Yep. So you can rotate the head as you've seen there, like that. So I can also adjust the brightness levels, and I can use it as a hands-free tool, which is the whole point of it. And I do have the headband in here in the kit. So that is the Noctowl HL16 headlamp. Not much else to say about it. It's magnetic tail too, which is quite nice. And that is the front portion here. Let's get into the back portion. We do have the soldering iron tips, which I did mention before for the X-Cool soldering iron. They fit in here. And we have a soldering iron metal piece here that flips up, and you can use this as sort of a rest for the soldering iron. It's flattened down right now, but it's a portable rest for a hot soldering iron, which is quite nice. And I keep the USB-C charging cable with the pack itself, just so I have a cable to charge the battery if I need to, or use it as I'm soldering. So that is our smaller soldering iron kit there. In the back here on this kind of mess of attachments, I have some, I think, 7 feet of electrical tape folded on itself. I have a small, very small measuring tape, which is quite nice, and I have a suction puller in case I have to do any work with like electronic screens. I can put that on the screen, pull up on it. So I carry one in this kit since I typically do replace cell phone screens or tablet screens. And then in the back here, I have my homemade Frankenstein pen, again with more electronic tape here on the tip cap, and a regular big pen there. And then I have duct tape here, and then I have a sewing thread here. And I believe in this one I do have sewing needles inside the main portion of here, so I can sew items. So in this kit, it actually has a sewing kit with it in case I have to do some kind of repairs or a makeshift case around some kind of electronics or whatever. I do carry it in this kit, and the duct tape does come in handy. Here is the battery bank of the kit. This is a max charge, a great flat-celled 5,000 milliamp hour battery type of flat battery, and works very well. They used to sell these at the local store for about $8. Now I can find a derivative of it, a different brand. Unfortunately, it's a little bit more expensive, about $14 on Amazon. So I'll put the derivative there. It's the Atom type, but this is the old max charge battery bank. I can put up the link for a similar battery bank, but this is great for charging the Zero Cool if I had to, or any of the other electronics that run off of USB power, which my main headlight does. And that's it for this side. We're all set. Let's jump to the center spine here real quick, as this features a nice piece of technology that I have that works fairly well. This is the A-Torch USB multimeter, and I bought these adapters that take the USB-C proprietary input and output on here and convert it into a regular standard USB-A measuring device. And it's small, compact, and it comes in color. It's got a lot of nice features to it. Like, for example, I'll plug it in here and it'll come on, and it has a sensor in it which kind of senses the direction that it's facing, and it will adjust to it. And you got different levels of options to scroll on here, on the scrolling bar here, and you got all this information on it. It's basically a really good $13 USB meter. It's a little bit expensive, but it's fairly accurate within reason. And I chose it because you can adapt it to fit in ports like this, or you can put it into your cell phone and see how much your cell phone's charging. So if I have to run diagnostics on things like that, I can, or other USB-C devices, which is the reason why I got it. And I do have an adapter for it to output into a USB-A, so we can plug in other things into it, and it's right here on this cable here. We'll get to in a little bit. But that's the A-Torch USB meter. Fantastic piece of kit for diagnostics. In fact, I'll put that here, and then we have the main multi-tool kit and main plier-based one. This is the Leatherman Wave. Now, this is the first generation, and this one's rather old. On the outside, we have this serrated knife here, sheep's foot. And on this side, we have the three-sided file. We have a bottom section, a fine gradient section, which is great for sharpening stuff. And then we have a crosshatch section here, which is quite nice. And then if we flip this around, we have the main blade here. And they're all liner locking on the outside, which is quite nice. And we have a saw in my kit, so in case I have to saw through something, I can, or make something from wood or similar material, I can. On the inside, we have the plier head, needle nose one. And this one's fairly used. It's a little bit off-sided here, which comes from use and abuse. But we have the needle nose section here, the regular section, a wire cutter section here, and works fairly well. And we'll try to get to the tool sets here. We have a pair of folding scissors. They're not the greatest scissors on these because you have to pull them all the way out and they'll click into place. See if I can do that here, and here we go. And they're spring loaded, so you can see that. They're a little bit better for doing heavy duty items. We'll close that down. And then we have a pair of slotted screwdrivers here too as well to go with the scissors. We have a small one and a thinner one here on this side, and even smaller one here too, to get into harder to reach places. So it's quite useful for thin electronics and things like that if we have to. On this side, we have more generic assortment of tools. We have a bottle cap lifter and a wire stripper function with the V-notch, a smaller one from the older days of Leatherman. Great for opening packages. Once again, I use the can openers to open packages usually. And this one's nice in that it features a 3D Phillips head screwdriver with a longer shank here, which is quite nice for getting into thinner portholes and things like that. So it's quite useful to have an actual 3D Phillips head screwdriver on the Wave, the first generation here. The last one's kind of hard to get out, but we have a slotted screwdriver here, which I can use as a makeshift light-duty pry bar. So that's quite nice. These don't really truly lock out, the non-locking on the inside tool set, but it doesn't bother me as I'm not doing heavy duty work with the Leatherman Wave. The reason why I like the Leatherman Wave in this kit is that we're short on room, and it's small, it's lightweight, it's got a great complement of different tools on it. It has the 4 main tools, which liner lock, which is essential to me, and it works fairly well in a kit like this, being a portable kit. And that's why we keep it in the center spine. Let's jump over to this side here, and we'll start with the top section here. On the top, we do have this AAA battery in a protective case here that extends it to a AA size, so I can put a battery into a AA slot with this AAA battery. And I keep it in this plastic bag so it doesn't contact anything. Next to it, we have my lighter of the kit. This is a basic dollar store lighter. Nothing to write home about, just your lighter in case we have to do any heat shrink tubing, heating up or anything like that. And then on this side, we do have 2 tools. I have another type of opening device, spudger if you want to call it, and I have this gum kind of portable brush. It's pretty strong, and I can get to hard to reach places to brush them up, clean them up if I have to for electronics. So I keep those in the kit here. Then moving along, I do have an assortment of different types of Q-tips. I have ones that have the traditional cotton in here, but they leave fibers behind, which is kind of annoying, but they do a good job of soaking up water and other types of materials. And then I have these newer types of Q-tips, if you want to call them that. They're like surgical ones. They're more of a rubberized type of fiber, I think, and they barely leave any kind of fiber behind, which is quite nice, but you're still able to clean with them. So that's why I have them in the kit here. Moving along to the other precision bit driver, I've had these for a few years now, these Hodo bit drivers, and I keep one in the kit here in addition to augment the Cybertool. Now this one is a little bit more chunkier than the Cybertool in terms of its driving capability. It's shorter, but it has these magnetic bits which then fit in the head here, and you can just undo screws and things like that. If I try to stick this in a long thin hole, it won't work, and that's how we have the Cybertool. But for general use, this comes out as my primary driving tool. It's 4mm bits, and they fit in this nice holder magnetically, and it's got a rotational cap here, which is quite nice to use for doing electronic work. I have some birthday candles, and the reason why I have birthday candles in the kit is if I have to use my lighter and maintain a heat source for a while, I don't have to burn my hand off, as I have to keep depressing the fuel switch on that, and I don't waste fuel. And this also helps me melt glue on certain projects when I'm working electronics, or melt glue sticks for that matter, to reseal projects. As I don't have a hot glue gun in the kit, I'll use birthday candles as my main heat source, and I can also use the wax in a pinch as well from the candle itself. So it's kind of like a self-gluing, self-waxing repair kit, if you will. And then I have another little smaller pry pick tool set here, kind of similar to a guitar pick, which would be the same function. And this helps me pry up certain screens and things like that without marring the metal on it or breaking certain things, which is essential. So that's why we have that in the kit here. Moving over, we're coming to the more mechanical portion of the kit here, and we'll pull all these out. Now, I do have a Duratec ratchet. This is a Chinese-made ratchet, and it's fairly useful. It works very well. It's got a nice set of tooth arrangements. It's got a 6mm portion in the rear here, and you can combine it with this here to pretty much have a T-shank or a regular adjustment or extension, if you will. And as you saw before, it goes through, and you can also torque down in a T fashion like this with this tool, which is quite nice. It's a versatile tool. And then we also have the adapters, so I can go from 6mm if I wanted to here, and to a socket set, which I do have some sockets, 1/4 inch here. And I also can go from the 6mm to 4mm, which fits with my 4mm driver in the Victorinox, and that's why we have it here. Although the Victorinox is not magnetic based, this will slip out eventually, but it's good to have something, another option to drive things in if I needed to. And that is the ratchet set portion of the kit. And then we have some charging cables here. This is for the Noctel headlight. It's got a proprietary pin charger to USB, works with the battery bank. Nothing much else to say about that. And then I have my soldering stuff here. This is the Rosencore Alpha Fry. This is 60% tin, 40% lead. It's very good. It flows very fine. It's about 0.32 diameter, and it's 50 ounces. So it works very well. It's a low melting type of alloy, which is nice. It allows me to get into electronics quick and easy, solder, and get out. Here is the small set of heat shrink tubings that I got, and inside a plastic bag for repairs and stuff. Nothing much else to say about those. They're very handy. Here's those glue sticks I was talking about before for gluing things together. And again, another pair of heat shrink tubes. And then I have a Fresnel lens for a really huge way of seeing electronics, if in case I have trouble seeing anything, or somebody I'm working with has trouble seeing the numbers and I need them to look for me. I got another lens in here in the kit. I have the leftover kind of like a Velcro or hook and loop field soft section here. I figured I could use the back portion as abrasion rubber and the front portion as sort of a brush cleaner if I need to. Another storage bag for extra parts. And then over here we have the charging USB-C cable with the adapters. So this is a micro to USB-C on here. And then this portion's the USB-A. And like I said, I can put this with the A-Torch USB-C input. Now I have a USB-A input and then male output here. So I can plug in regular cables to this and measure the current. So it works very well with this kit here. And then on this webbing here, I do have a small microfiber cloth for cleaning glass and other types of surfaces. Now let's get into the bottom section here, these two last pockets of the kit. And this one, I do have my Allison multimeter. I was going to try to fit a Fluke 101 or Fluke 107 in there, but the 101 and 107 would fit in that pocket, but their probes, which are these two items here, are so big and huge they would not be able to fit in the kit. So unfortunately I could not fit that in this kit, so I had to settle on something a little bit more less name brand, shall we call it, and a little bit less expensive, which is quite nice. I've been using these Allisons for a few years. You have voltage, we have the continuity checks, we have hertz, milliamps, non-contact voltage measuring, which this comes in pretty handy. It's not a bad tool, it works for what it does, and it is the most portable type of, multimeter to use in a kit like this. It runs on one AAA battery, so it's quite nice to have something like this for a multimeter. Then we have a few miscellaneous items in the pocket here. We have wet wipes for cleaning, under the bag to hold items, the manual for the multimeter, and other wet wipes here. So again, more instructional literature, and we do have a couple more items here, paper to write down stuff on, more cleaning items here as well. I probably could replace some of those and free up some space in there, but they don't take up too much space. Going down to the bottom pocket here, we have a small Sharpie. It comes in handy for marking things, so we have that in the kit. We have some T7000 glue in black, which works fairly well for a good source of gluing things. And then we have the small socket set in here. We have some metric, and then we have a hex to 1/4 inch adapter in here, so I can use 1/4 inch and hex bits in here as well, 6 millimeters. So it works very well. We have a 10 millimeter socket, which you might find that in the field, might not. So I might replace this with a Nipix plier set, but it's good to have some sort of option to get to some fasteners if we need to in the kit. Now, it's not a comprehensive kit like the main electronic kit, which has those other sockets lined up pretty nicely. This is a smaller kit, so smaller amount of sockets. Then I have some connectors, which I do use, ring terminal ones, and also spade type ones as well. Then we have a small electronic bag, which you can store electronic sensitive components in. And then finally, I do have a few more items in here. I do have a wall adapter, USB one, for plugging into the wall and charging my kits if I have to. And then I have the headlamp for the Bernite HL16. So here we can see on the table the comparison of the sizing of the kits after they're all been packed up and whatnot. This is the first generation electronic kit, which is just updated, and this is the EDCM Huge. We got the in the center here compared to our main secondary kit, the second generation electronic kit. You can see how this is much wider, much more feature packed than this kit here. So on a side view, you can see truly how thick they are. And this is a condensed down hybrid kit of both the tools and electronic kits that I have. And I condensed it down to smaller Vanquest Huge PPM 2.0 carrier. So you can kind of get an idea how thick these kits are and how they're progressing downward. So I just want to show you guys that as a part of comparison for the sizing of these two kits. This is my primary EDC type of electronic kit, which I'll carry around on portable jobs and at home. And this is going to be an even smaller kit, which might go into a future pack that I'm working on, and maybe a ham radio pack or something like that. And this is going to be like the grab and go kit if I don't know what I'm going to encounter. That's kind of a hybrid of both the electronics and tool bag kits condensed down into the small format. We'll go over this bag in another video, but for now, this is sort of the sizing that I wanted to show you. And that is the entire electronic kit in the EDCM 2.0 Husky, and you can see how flat it is now compared to what it was before we started. And these pouches are amazing, as you can fit a whole bunch of material in it and customize it to a high degree. So that's my second electronics kit. I thought you guys might like that. Let me know what you think, and hopefully it inspires you to build one kit of your own. I want to thank you for watching, and enjoy your day.